Hi all, my name is Davis and welcome back to my channel where we talk about all things tech, and today we are taking a look at the Ulefone Armor Pad Pro, which is an 8-inch Android tablet. But it's not any small Android tablet because it's an Android tablet with a difference. Because not only is it water and dust resistant and supposed to be very tough, but it's also got a very special connector that allows you to attach special accessories like this microscope or even an endoscope for adventurous activities. But the question is, outside of the very specific target demographic that this is made for, is this compact tablet even worth considering? Well, that's what we are going to find out today. And this video is brought to you by the Ultrahuman Ring Air. So it's very rare for me to still be using a piece of tech well after the review period is over. But that is exactly what I've been doing with this smart ring, because with software updates, it is just getting better and better. For those of you who saw my review video, you might remember that I said that while it was brilliant at tracking your health for things like resting heart rate, general activity, and especially sleep, it wasn't so good at workouts. But with the latest updates, your Apple Watch workout data gets sent straight to the Ultrahuman app. So there's finally more connections between Apple Health and Ultrahuman, and now it even connects with other apps like Strava as well, so you can pick and choose which wearable is best depending on the situation. And I especially love how the ring now tracks your stress levels as well, so you can track your stress not only through your day, but also over an extended period of time. And unlike a certain competitor, there's also no subscription needed to unlock all the features. You can use my code Davis10 through the link in the description to save 10% off your Ultrahuman Ring Air. And I will continue to give further updates about my Ultrahuman Ring Air experience in further videos. So just a bit of context for reviewing this tablet right now. It's a little bit weird as I'm also working on my review of the M4 iPad Pro, which probably isn't the best timing in the world, but it is giving me a lot of context into the tablet market in 2024. Because whereas this is one of the most expensive tablets that you can buy, I think this one was over £2,000 or 4,000 Australian dollars. This Armor Pad Pro, on the other hand, costs only a tenth of that. And right now you can find it for even less. So 10 or 12 of these or one iPad Pro. That is quite an interesting proposition. So let's take a look at the hardware first and decide. And first impressions, well, it definitely takes me back because it sort of feels like that I'm holding a BlackBerry Playbook or even an HP Touchpad Go. If I'm feeling nice though, I could say that it feels a little bit like a rugged Nexus 7. So what I'm essentially trying to say is that this doesn't exactly feel like a tablet from this decade. Far from it actually, because it feels like something that was made 10 or more years ago. Look, I do want to be kind, but if you just have a look at the 14mm thickness, the 560g weight, the massive size of the bezels, the lack of rounded corners to the 8-inch screen, the 189 ppi LCD display, and just overall plasticky design, it all looks and sounds very 2014 to me. What is probably the most dated part of this tablet though, I would have to say is the display. It's one of the worst I've seen in a long while. It's only 800 by 1280 in resolution, which is roughly the same resolution as the 7-inch HP Touchpad Go tablet from 2011, and the screen quality, well, I'm not actually convinced that it's that much better. It definitely is reasonably bright at around 500 nits, but colors look rather muted. And also the 189 ppi, you can definitely see the pixels with the naked eye, which is not something that I've really had to think about in around 10 years or so. It also only has a 60Hz refresh rate, which to be fair isn't a surprise, but perhaps 90Hz could have been possible at this price point. So it's hardly an impressive display, but I do guess that it works. On the upside though, the hardware does feel remarkably tough. It's rated for IP68, which means that it's protected from both water and dust, and you can also submerge it in up to 1.5 meters of water for up to 30 minutes, which is very impressive, especially considering that very few tablets are water resistant at all. Adding to the idea of toughness, at no point while I've been using this tablet have I thought that actually I would really like to use it in a case, because it feels like that that this thing could really take a beating. I feel like that I can put this down just about anywhere and not worry about it at all. And this is not a freedom that I've felt from a tablet in a very long time. It's actually surprisingly liberating. The rubberized plastic casing also feels super tough, and there's barely any flex as well, even when I do apply some reasonable force to it. The buttons in addition all feel very positive, and the fingerprint / power button combo works pretty great as well. I actually kind of prefer to have a fingerprint reader like this one over Face ID on the iPad, because I always seem to be covering the camera on that because the bezels are so thin. On the other hand though, while I do understand why it's here, I am just not a big fan of this flap that you have to open to access the USB-C port and headphone jack. But at least this is better than some others, as this is technically a separate piece of rubber and it's relatively easy to modulate. One thing that I really do love about this tablet though is the fact that there are stereo speakers. While they aren't the highest quality speakers in the world, as they do sound a little bit tinny, they are actually amazingly loud, which is incredible really. What's even more fantastic is that there is a SIM card slot, which means that you could actually technically use this as a very large 4G phone if you wanted to. In addition to that, you can also expand the storage from a decent 128 gigabytes to well over 2 terabytes with a micro SD card, and that would literally cost you thousands of dollars if you wanted that level of storage on an iPad. You might also notice that there is a number of special holes and connectors, and we will get to them later. So essentially, while the hardware design does feel very old, it is incredibly well made and it feels very tough. But what is this tablet actually like to use? Well, it isn't fast. It utilizes a MediaTek MT8788 processor, which is similar to the Helio P60, and it's a 12nm chip that dates all the way back to 2018, and performance does reflect that age. It's got a single core Geekbench 6 score of 325 and a multi-core score of 1224, and those are very, very poor specs for a 2024 device. It's actually around a tenth of the performance of the new iPad Pro. However, it is paired with a decent 8GB of RAM, which is the same as the base models of the iPad Pro. And you might expect me to say that at this point, with these specs, that this tablet can barely run Android 13. You might also expect me to say that it's so slow that it's virtually impossible to use. And I am actually glad to say that while this isn't lightning quick, it's actually a tablet that's remarkably usable. I'm able to open apps with reasonable speed. I can access all of my notes in OneNote quite smoothly. Social media apps work pretty well as well. TikTok works fine, Facebook is great, and I can even use a split screen without wanting to tear my hair out. I'm actually very impressed with how well Android 13 is optimized for older SoCs like this one. Don't get me wrong, scrolling is not smooth at all, but I genuinely feel that this is quite usable, and I've even found myself doing a spot of gaming on this thing and finding it to be not so bad. Asphalt 9, which is quite a demanding game, works brilliantly, and I actually quite like the 8-inch form factor. It's a screen size that I feel a lot of companies seem to have abandoned, but it is a very nice size. It still feels spacious like what you'd want from a tablet, but small enough to carry just about anywhere. The only usability complaint that I have is the keyboard. The vertical keyboard, it's fine, but it's best used with your thumbs like a phone. And the landscape keyboard, well, it's just too small to type with multiple fingers. So perhaps this is closer to a phone than a tablet. One upside to having this older, very power efficient chip though, is the battery life. With a very sizable 7650 milliamp battery, 13 or 14 hours is not out of the question, and the standby is also super long. You can return to this tablet after well over a week of not using it, and you can still find that it has some charge. In fact, Ulefone actually claims that it can go for 2 weeks without losing all of its charge. As with all tablets, especially at this price point however, the cameras really aren't anything to write home about. The rear camera is a 48 megapixel unit that we've seen on a lot of budget phones, and pictures are generally acceptable. While the app is fast and in decent light, the images look fairly decent. They do look a little bit over sharpened and dynamic range is a bit lacking, but images do look fine. But as one might expect, the images really do fall apart when things get dark. But this is more than enough for some basic document scanning, which is practically what 99% of tablet cameras do anyway. The front selfie camera, which is a 32 megapixel unit, does look fairly poor though. It's very soft, but you know, it's fine for some basic video calls and it does the job. You can't really ask it to do that much more. Videos, on the other hand, are an absolute disaster. The videos are very shaky, they top out at 1080p and are very, very over sharpened. It genuinely looks quite unpleasant. But if you take videos on a tablet, I feel like that you are the problem, not the tablet. So I don't really care about that. Okay, so we've seen that this tablet itself is fairly average. So let's talk about why you might actually purchase this tablet. And it's the accessories, and they are amazing. Let's get the boring one out of the way first. So if you just want to have a nice handle or stand, you can get the tablet hand strap with kickstand, and it attaches to the tablet with these attachment points. And while it is very bulky and it feels a little bit like a baseball mitt in your hand, it is by far the most comfortable handle stand thing that I've ever used on a tablet. If you work outside all day and you need to record data on your tablet or something, this is an absolute must. And it turns your tablet into an absolute productivity monster. I love how you can turn it around like that too. It works pretty well as a stand too. I feel that this accessory would be a must purchase for inspectors, builders, surveyors, and people who just need a small, tough tablet in their hand all day. What is slightly more exciting though is the U-Smart expansion port, which can support either an endoscope or microscope attachment. And it's both amazing and a little bit baffling at the same time. So let's get the baffling bit out of the way first. Firstly, the U-Smart software is not included on the tablets by default, and nor is it in the Play Store. Instead, you have to scan this little QR code and then it seems to download from a random Google Drive or something. It's very odd indeed. The second baffling thing is that not only does the connector clip in with a plastic hook bit, but you also have to physically screw it in. And the first time you use it, you have to use a screwdriver to remove the screw that's in the tablet by default. I have no idea why it's there in the first place. But after you have everything ready, luckily you don't have to think about any of that stuff again. And I have to say that, wow, the microscope that they sent me is only $90 RRP, but it's on sale for $60 US at the moment. And it really is rather brilliant. This one is the U-Smart CO1, and it can give you either 50 times or 1,000 times in magnification. It's got 8 adjustable LED lights, it's got a stand, and the sensor itself is 1 megapixel. You can adjust your focus and zoom using the silver wheel over here, and there are shortcut buttons as well for digitally cropping and taking an image as well. I've had so much fun using this microscope, and the images and videos that it takes truly are quite breathtaking. If you need a microscope for your work, this is a fantastic and very affordable package. And the endoscope, I'm sure, is even more fun and useful, but unfortunately I didn't receive that one to try out. So in conclusion, should you buy the Ulefone Armor Pad Pro? Probably not. If you want a tablet for normal uses like taking notes or watching videos and maybe even playing some games, then there are far better options even at this very affordable price point of around $220 US. But if you are looking for a tablet for work and you work outside at a construction site, or you just need something that you can just throw about and not have to baby around, then this is a brilliant choice. And it's so tough, it works well enough, and the battery life is fantastic. And if you need the microscope and endoscope attachments as well, then put simply, this tablet is in a class of its own. The thing is, like a Jeep Wrangler or a Hummer H1, this thing is not a great choice for most people who just need an average car or device for their jobs in the city and need something normal and boring. The Armor Pad Pro, like those vehicles, is for people who just need something that's super tough and has those capabilities that no other devices are capable of. And for people like builders and construction workers, then this thing really is quite perfect for that target demographic. If you enjoyed this video, please support the channel by liking and subscribing if you haven't done so yet, and be sure to comment down below if you've got any questions. And until next time, toodaloo.